Today is the final day of Prime Minister Modi's United States visit. After the marathon meetings, bilaterals and Quad summit, India's Prime Minister will open the 76th United Nations General Assembly in New York. In a few hours from now, Prime Minister Modi will address the 193-membered world body. He has already arrived in New York City for the grand finale session at the Great Hall of the UN headquarters. Just before leaving, Prime Minister Narendra Modi had released a statement on his UNGA speech, which is expected to focus on the need to tackle global challenges, including the ongoing pandemic, counter-terrorism and developments in the Indo-Pacific. The Prime Minister of India is also expected to draw attention to the possible reforms in the United Nations Security Council. Theme for this year's general debate is building resilience through hope to recover from COVID, rebuild sustainably and respond to the needs of the planet. On Monday, India's permanent representative to the United Nations, T.S. Tirumurti, had said that Prime Minister Modi's speech at the UNGA is one of the most awaited among the world leaders. And this year's United Nations General Debate began on the 21st of this month with a speech by the Secretary General Antonio Guterres. Since 5 days, the UN Great Hall has witnessed somber warnings, fiery denunciations and a start to the illustration of a divided world. Apart from COVID-19, pandemic and the climate change, the addresses give a clear picture of the fault lines between democracy and authoritarianism in the world. Unlike the 75th UNGA last year, which was entirely virtual, over 100 world leaders and their high-ranking officials have arrived in the United Nations at the United Nations complex in Manhattan, and a total of 109 heads of the governments are addressing the general debate in person this year, and nearly 60 are delivering speeches through pre-recorded video statements. And for more on this, joining us live on this broadcast from Italy is John Hulsman, member of the U.S. Council on Foreign Relations and political analyst. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, like I mentioned earlier, Prime Minister Modi's address, all eyes on that, where he will focus on global challenges and reforms at the UNSC as well. Well, how do you assess this?
Well, I think this is the symbolic part of the trip. The UN is far less important than the bilat with the United States down in Washington and the quadrilateral meeting. But what the UN meeting does is continues India's coming out party as a great power. If you're an American policymaker, you look at the world right now and say the Indo-Pacific is the most important region in the world where all the future economic growth is located and a lot of the world's future economic risk. And if you look around for allies to contain Chinese expansionism, the go-to allies are immediately the Quad allies, great powers, India and Japan and Australia, another Anglosphere country. And so India being central in these strategic thinkings of the United States and the West, really the UN just is icing on the cake, showing how important India truly is right now.
Right, so also let's just talk about the theme of this year's general debate. It is building resilience through hope to recover from COVID, rebuild sustainably, respond to the needs of the planet. There have been a lot of discussions on similar lines as well. What are some of the other key areas of discussions that we can expect?
I think you'll also see beyond COVID, you're going to see, as you mentioned, climate change, because the meeting in Glasgow is coming up. There's pressure to move. Boris Johnson is gathering money to help developing countries deal with it. There are about 80 billion of the 100 billion there. But seeing how India reacts to this as a leading, developing, rising power is an important and interesting test. You mentioned terrorism, of course, with the shambolic exit from Afghanistan. We now have a common problem, the United States and India, how to deal with the Taliban on India's border and how to stop this devolving into a further terrorist project. I think Prime Minister Modi will talk about this. And then the key one, again, is the Indo-Pacific as the most important region in the world where India plays a pivotal role. So there's a lot to be parsed over the next couple hours.
All right, so it's important to mention, like you just said, I was going to come to that. There's a lot that has happened, a lot of firsts and a lot of new deals in the past few days. We've seen the AUKUS deal, we've seen the first in-person Quad summit. There is the issue of Afghanistan, the takeover of Afghanistan by the Taliban. In the backdrop of all of this, how do you assess and what sort of resolutions can we expect on these fronts?
I think this is vital. I think you're seeing a chess move back toward the Chinese after the Chinese bullying in the high Himalaya toward India, the Xinjiang province and the way the Uyghurs are treated, the stamp down in Hong Kong, the encroachments in the East China and South China Seas, the bullying of Australia. I think you see the democratic world gathering in the Indo-Pacific, forming a series of alliances that complement each other, with the Quad as the central one, because you have the three great powers of the Indo-Pacific, India, Japan and the United States, but also AUKUS, where you have an Anglosphere setup that is strategically highly capable. And these overlapping circles are a chess move back, saying to the Chinese, there are limits to the encroachments you can make, and we will contain your expansionism. This is a long game of chess, but this is a significant move the last few days as we marshal this common democratic front against Chinese expansionism.
All right. Mr. John Halsman, thank you so much for joining us with all your insights on that.
My pleasure.
We own USA Direct from New York with Siddhant Sibal.
Also joining us now is our principal diplomatic correspondent, Siddhant Sibal, joining us from Times Square in New York. Siddhant, thank you for joining us. From what we know so far, you are in New York now. From what we know so far, Prime Minister Modi to address global challenges. Just walk us through some of the key areas of focus.
Well, now the focus has shifted from Washington to New York, and of course the Indian Prime Minister is all set to address the United Nations General Assembly. He is the first speaker today, and focus areas, as we have been talking, has been in the past and will be the United Nations Security Council reforms. Remember, last time he addressed was in 2020 virtually, and his big focus was the UN reforms, how India needs to be on the high table. The United Nations Security Council reforms should make sure that the largest democracy should have a seat at the high table. Other than that, it is climate change, COVID crisis. There can be references to Afghanistan, and if he makes a reference to Afghanistan, that will be a big policy statement by New Delhi from that green podium of the United Nations General Assembly. This is his fourth address when it comes to the General Assembly. In the past, whenever he has addressed the General Assembly, he has talked about India's soft power. He gave the proposal of Yoga Day, something that has become an annual celebration of sorts.
Right, Siddhant. Now we know climate change, counterterrorism, these are some of the main issues, and like you just mentioned right now, he's expected to draw attention to possible reforms in the United Nations Security Council. Could you just spell that out for us?
Well, as I have been talking about, when it comes to United Nations Security Council reforms, there is one country that has been a major obstacle, that is China. Most of the countries, the permanent five members, which is France, UK, Russia and US, have strongly supported India's bid for the seat at the UNSC. But China has been an obstacle, of course, for usual reasons. China has been blocking the entire process. There is, in fact, a process that is still underway. But what China has been doing is not allowing that process to become a formal process. There is another route to become or reform the United Nations Security Council, that is through the General Assembly route, under which countries need 2/3 of majority of the General Assembly. But that's a long, tedious process. The simplest process is to make sure that the UNSC is okay for reforms. Most of the countries have been globally backing India's bid. India is a large country geographically. Population-wise, it's a democratic state and it can play a major role, but China sees this as a threat, and obviously it has been blocking the entire effort. India has been talking about the UNSC reforms for a pretty long time now, making sure that New Delhi's voice is heard, and most of the countries have supported it.
Right, Siddhant. That being said, also it is important to mention now, we've heard Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan's comments as well. Do you think there may be a chance that Prime Minister Modi responds to those comments?
Well, there is almost zero chance that the Indian Prime Minister is going to respond to the comments by the Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan for simple reason that there is no point giving a focus to a person who has been saying a lot of negative things about India. But that has been Pakistan's policy for last 70 years. They have been raking Kashmir from that green podium since the existence of Pakistan came into being in last 70 years. And what will be the focus? Of course, we have talked about counter-terrorism, climate change, COVID crisis, United Nations Security Council reforms. But what is significant that India has already exercised its right to reply. The Indian diplomat Sneha Dubey talking about how minorities are under threat. She talked about the genocide perpetrated by Pakistan in East Bangladesh, in East Bengal, and that of course is Bangladesh. But largely, if you look at the focus areas, Pakistan will be least of concern for India.
Right, Siddhant, now that we're talking about Pakistan, it is also important to mention Afghanistan that has dominated most of the discussions and has been a common denominator, I would say. Now, on that front, what can we expect? What sort of a plan of action are we keeping forth?
Well, Afghanistan, as I just mentioned, that there will be references to Afghanistan, and this will be a major policy statement by the Indian government. If there is even a single line on Afghanistan, the Indian Prime Minister has already talked about Afghanistan at various international forums. Just at SCO Afghanistan outreach meeting, he talked about how the government in Afghanistan has not been formed through an inclusive process. He talked about how basically this is a government that needs to draw the red line. New Delhi has already talked about how focus should be on minorities, women's rights. There should not be a reversal of the gains of last 20 years. India, of course, was the president of the United Nations Security Council in the month of August, and under its presidency, India was able to pass a resolution that was passed on 30th of August, which talks about basically Taliban's commitments. First, that Afghan territory will not be used by terrorists. We already know that there are concerns, there are security challenges for India, that currently the Afghan territory can be used by Pakistan-based international terror groups. That remains a top concern. Secondly, that resolution talks about rights of minorities, women. That has been talked about at various bilateral meetings as well. In fact, in Washington on Friday, we saw the Quad meeting. We saw the bilateral between the two leaders, the Indian Prime Minister and the President Joe Biden. And focus, of course, was then again on Afghanistan. There were references to Afghanistan in the joint statement, both by Quad and the bilateral statement between India and US.
Right, Siddhant, and just on that, just for more clarity on that, India has said that United States also shares its concerns of Pakistan in Afghanistan, and they have decided to monitor Pakistan very closely. What sort of a plan of action is there in place, and can we expect any sort of a resolution now?
Well, Pakistan is least of India's concern right now when it comes to United Nations General Assembly. There will be no references, but yes, it is concerns in terms of becoming the epicenter of terrorism. India has been talking about it with its allies bilaterally. In the Quad grouping, of course, we know there were references to Pakistan's support to the terror groups, and of course how Pakistan is destabilizing Afghanistan. The fact that ISI DG was in Kabul shows the influence, the negative influence Islamabad has in Kabul right now, and how it has been instrumental in the Taliban cabinet. There are two Haqqani members. Haqqani is a dreaded terror group, and the fact that how Pakistan has been playing a dual role globally is something that now everyone knows. As India's young diplomat Sneha Dubey talked, that it is the arsonist and not the firefighter. It is trying to play the role of firefighter, which of course is to gain sympathy. It has been saying that it is a victim of terrorism, which is clearly not the case, and that is now well known to many countries, including here in United States. We know there has been no phone conversation between the US President and the Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan, and this shows that that the American administration does understands that there is no point dealing with Pakistan other than the fact that if they are able to make sure that if they are stranded American citizens in Afghanistan, they can be brought out of the country.
All right, Siddhant, thank you so much for joining us with all the latest on that. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.